Viewer discretion is advised. This video you may find disturbing, appalling, and rather graphic. I made this video as therapy to help me get past what I've been through, and also in hopes that it will bring change to the Mesa, Arizona Police Department. On June 19th, 2017, I crashed my car into a tree. The police, having perceived me as fleeing from them, promptly brutalized me. This is a description of that brutality. The police found me unconscious, laying across the front seat of my car, having just been in a terrible car accident, having a head injury and a neck injury. They yelled commands at me. I did not respond because I was unconscious. They knocked out the passenger side window. Then, without knowing the nature or extent of the injuries I sustained in the crash, they grabbed me violently by the hair, tearing ligaments in my neck, which is still painful 4 months later. After they pulled my hair to lift my head up, it fell right back down because I was unconscious, even though one of the officers can be heard asking if they should wait for paramedics to remove me properly from the car. Another officer decided, no, we want to beat this guy up, so let's pull him from the car right now so we can do that right now. In the police report, they say they thought the car might catch fire because they saw smoke, and gave that as a reason they pulled me from the car immediately. But you can't see any smoke in the video. A little steam from the radiator perhaps, but no smoke. And even if that was the reason, then why did they set me right next to the car that was allegedly about to burst into flames? They didn't just put me right next to the car, they put me right next to the location of the gas tank. They wanted me out of the car so that they could attack me. As they dragged me from the car, my pants and my underwear fell down, exposing my privates. It took them 4 or 5 minutes before they finally pulled my pants back up, even though there was a female officer on the scene, making it even more highly inappropriate. Also, as they dragged me from the car, my rear hit the road, almost breaking my tailbone. If the angle was just a little bit different, it would have broke my tailbone. As I just began to regain consciousness, I'm barely clinging to consciousness when 2 or 3 cops come over, surround me, tell me to stop resisting, and then start beating me. They told me, "Put your hands behind your back." If I was capable, I would have done so. I suspect that they were keeping me from doing so that they would have a fine excuse to beat me. You can see one officer winding up full force, striking me numerous times. The stomach, the chest, the head that had the head injury. They punched me in the face, giving me a black eye. Kicked me several times, broke one of my ribs. I have absolutely no memory of this incident and had to rely on my injuries at first to determine what happened, and eventually the police report to determine what happened, and then finally the video to show me exactly what happened. I could tell by the desperation in my voice that I had no idea what was happening to me. They did not care. They wanted to attack me, and they did. After a little research, I found that it's quite possible I was temporarily blind, as that's very possible right after certain types of head and neck injuries. So what would make them think that I was supposed to know it was the police who were attacking me? Just as they got the handcuffs put on me, which by the way sprained my wrist, they slammed my head into the curb, tearing my ear, which required stitches, also hitting the curb hard enough to give me a big bruise next to my ear, and also another head injury, as if I didn't have enough already from the car accident, from being punched in the head. And now they slammed my head into the curb, giving me yet another concussion. At least now, as I lay bleeding with my head on the curb, motionless, handcuffed, helpless, harmless, defenseless, delirious from all the head injuries, you would think they would finally back off, which they did for a moment. But then one officer made a conscious decision to punch me in the ribs, which of course is no different than if he was to come down to the hospital after this happened and then punch me while I laid in the hospital bed. Also, after all the beating, they tased me, not once, but twice, before they handcuffed me. Surprisingly, you don't hear the taser going off, but it was in the police report that they admitted that they tased me twice. Even though I was clearly already captured, what with 2 or 3 cops surrounding me, I was on the ground with my pants down. Trying to run away at that point would have been like trying to run away with my ankles shackled. Again, although you don't hear the taser, it's probably when you hear the extreme pain in my voice. If they felt justified in dishing out that much punishment, that much violence upon me, how much more could they have got away with? Could they have hit my head a little bit harder, giving me permanent brain damage? When I arrived at the hospital, they described me as arriving in an altered state of mind, which warranted a CAT scan to make sure I didn't have brain damage. Thankfully I didn't, and I came to a little while later. Could they have killed me? Sure. Would they have got away with it? Maybe. Can they sleep at night? I'm not sure how. If they really felt that I resisted enough to warrant all of this violence against me, why was there no charge of resisting arrest? Because they know I wasn't even capable of it. They wanted to hurt me, so that's what they went ahead and did. One officer seems to think I was laughing. If I was, it only shows that I was delirious from head injury, as I never have and never will find anything funny about this at all. I was most likely moaning or even crying. If they really did think I was laughing, and the police report actually says I was laughing at them, it must have angered them, so they took their anger and aggression out on me. Anger is one small step from hate. They're supposed to serve and protect. That was the last thing on their mind. They decided to punish me, to hurt me, and that's exactly what they did. The police report also contends that I was balling up my hands when they were trying to cuff me. That's most likely because at some point I sprained a finger and must have been instinctively trying to protect my hands from further damage. They must have assumed I was in a stolen car or had a prior criminal history or had warrants for my arrest. None of this was true. Not only do I have no past criminal record, I never even had a single point on my driver license in over 30 years of driving. They made all the wrong assumptions that night, causing me a huge amount of mental and physical pain and anguish, some of which I still suffer from 4 months later. I fear they will keep doing the same thing to other people who don't deserve such treatment if I don't spread the word. We should all spread the word. Share this video. Why did the police perceive me as fleeing from them? Because I was fleeing from them. But in all actuality, when they first pulled out after me, late at night in a rough part of town, they were in a dark SUV, not a black and white unit, which would have been unmistakable. They didn't put on their red and blues, which would have been unmistakable. They came after me without even any headlights. I panicked and thought a maniac could be coming after me. Very shortly after this, the terror and intensity of the situation caused me to begin to faint at the wheel, causing me to lose control while turning a corner. The initial officer can be heard saying, "I didn't even get a chance to light him up." So they knew they were dealing with someone who didn't know that they were being chased by the police. They didn't care. In fact, when I first started to barely gain consciousness, at no point did they say, "I'm a police officer, I'm trying to arrest you, do you understand?" Even though they knew that I had just regained consciousness, that per one officer's police report, I had a possible head injury, and therefore didn't have any idea what was happening. They didn't identify themselves until they had beaten, kicked, tased, and handcuffed me, at which point you can see the genuine reaction of surprise and horror when they told me I had wrecked my car while running from the police. I'm a peaceful man. I don't even know how to fight or defend myself when I'm at my sharpest. I was such a non-threat when they brutalized me that I think it's fair to say it was an act of extreme cowardice for them to treat me the way they did in my condition. Just for a quick comparison, here's a video of a guy who claims he was brutalized by Mesa PD.
Yeah, I'm already taking the shit.
Look at his enormous size. Look how he's totally coherent and defying the officer's request for him to sit down. Look how he dodges the officer's attempt to take him down. But he doesn't run, he stays there to fight and wrestle with the officer. Eventually, another few officers show up and give him just about the same beating and tasing they gave me, except they didn't then slam his head into the curb and also give him a cheap shot to the ribs after he was cuffed. If, and this is a big if I was resisting, at worst it was a passive, nonviolent resistance with no escalation on my part at all. However, they escalated it beyond just hair pulling, beyond just stripping me nearly naked, beyond dropping me on the ground, nearly breaking my tailbone, beyond just beating, beyond just kicking, beyond just tasing, until they finally slammed my head against the curb and gave me a cheap shot in the ribs. I was no threat to them. I didn't try to hurt them. Yet they hurt me very badly. This amounts to illegal excessive force and a violation of my civil rights. Types of police misconduct they may have participated in are as follows: rudeness, calling me a fucking asshole; excessive force, badly beating and tasing a person with a head injury who was virtually unconscious; deprive a person of his or her constitutional rights, the right to not be beaten unnecessarily; careless driving, driving rapidly and or aggressively to a minor call; no headlights, no emergency lights or indication that it was the police, as well as numerous other traffic infractions when they first came after me; malicious threats or assaults, the cheap shot to the ribs; criminal police misconduct, slamming my head into the curb as they cuffed me, and the cheap shot to the ribs. How serious of a head injury does a person need to have before the police are no longer entitled to attack, punch, beat, kick, and tase them? If they really felt I needed to be in handcuffs, it only would have required one officer to simply put my hands behind my back and cuff me. It would not have required much force at all in my condition. It absolutely did not require the extensive violence they used. And that's an important point. Force is one thing, extreme violence is something entirely different. No one in my condition deserves to be treated the way I was. They treated me the way you might expect to see after someone just committed a robbery, or perhaps a person whacked out on PCP who just threw 5 or 10 officers to the ground. Again, they wanted to hurt me, so they did. They are not the prosecutor, judge, jury, and executioner. This is not the justice system we're supposed to have in this country.
Why is there you have so many legs? What's that all about?
You just ran from the police and wrecked out.
No.
Yeah, you did.
No.
True story, just happened.
No.
Yeah. What's your social, Dave?
And shot westbound. Oh, so he's in the middle lane. Yeah.
So we'll just have fire extract them.
You never got a chance to light him up, though, huh?
You think this is funny? Fucking asshole. Here, hook his ass up. He's in handcuffs and fucking. Give me your hand. Put your hand behind your back. Give me your hand. Put your hand behind your back. Fuck. 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 Go down to the first light. Fuck. Get your hand. Stop tensing up. Fuck. Fuck, man, ow! What the fuck? Fucking hurts, doesn't it? Give me your hand! What the fuck? Whoa! What the fuck? Oh my god!
At first, I was surprised that I couldn't find any attorneys who would jump at the chance to represent me in a civil suit against the police. Over time, it dawned on me that clearly the police continually behave even worse than they did in this case. It must require a very extreme circumstance to create an open and shut case against them. And that's why they keep acting this way, because they know they can get away with it. And just as importantly, they continue doing it because they enjoy hurting people. My case is no different in that respect. How do I back this up? Listen to the cops' choice of words while they are attacking me.
Fuck, get out! What the fuck? Hurts, doesn't it?
Notice he doesn't say, "I'm sorry if this hurts, but we need to get you handcuffed." Well, okay, there's no reason to think that the word sorry is even in their vocabulary, so let's omit that word. They could have said, "This might hurt, but we have to get these handcuffs on you." Instead, they took the completely opposite approach, to say it in such a way that seems to declare how proud they are to be causing me pain. And he made sure he announced it. "Hurts, doesn't it?" That's the words of a bully. What is a bully? A person who uses strength or power to harm or intimidate those who are weaker. There's no better word than bully in this case. I'm not very strong physically, but cops are expected to work out so they will feel like tough guys. Now, females, by their very nature, are typically more sympathetic, empathetic toward others. Not the lady who dealt with me that night. I use the word lady very loosely. A lady would have said, "I know you may be in pain, but I need some info from you first, and then we'll get you to the hospital for the treatment you need and deserve." "What's your social, Dave?" That's what she said to me as I lay possibly dying from my injuries, a number of which they themselves caused. I was prejudged by all these cops and determined to be less than human, to deserve treatment not even fitting for an animal. If they continue to get away with it, they'll continue to do it. They're not there to judge, sentence, and punish even a single person they encounter. They certainly need to judge the danger of a situation, the danger a certain person presents. But since I, at the time they attacked me, presented no threat or danger to them, and was still nearly unconscious, once again, it's obvious that they hurt me just because they wanted to, because they enjoy it, because they are bullies. I find the behavior shameful, despicable, and unbecoming of a rational human, unbecoming of a moral citizen, unbecoming of a good American. Thank you for taking the time to watch this documentary. Were you also the victim of excessive force by police? Do you have video footage that shows it? I would like to help you create your own documentary so that you too may share your story. So please feel free to contact me.